All right.
Okay. Watch this.
Oh, I can't do that. I have to touch it without moving it.
Okay, so Chris is trying to figure out how to work this automatic, what do you call it? Autopilot. Ooh, we're going. Okay, Greg, three old ladies, and there's Grandma.
Hi.
And we're trying to,
We're not trying.
we're not doing
We are being
anything.
driven by autopilot.
Yeah, and by the way, we have this too. Okay, here we go.
I don't even have to look. Do you have to?
And we're not on a little simple neighborhood road, mind you. So we're pretty liking it.
Yeah.
Chris is going to drive all the way home to Georgia on autopilot. So, hi, Monica. Greg's making fun of us. Okay, talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.
So there you go. I understand that you put that up on X today, and Nicholas, you had quite the response, eh?
Yeah, it seems people are liking to see the juxtaposition between these women having a bunch of fun, not necessarily the most tech forward people, and yet they seem to find, the enjoyment out of it, the usefulness out of it, the safety out of it, and the ease of use of it.
Yeah.
I know they said autopilot. They are on FSD. They just don't know the terminology. But this is my best friend's mother, aunt, and I guess grandmother. He sent it to me, and I was like, "Oh, I need to post this." I asked for permission. They said, "Yep, absolutely."
That's great. Well, I'm glad we were able to share that because we're always looking for opportunities to show how FSD is here. I mean, basically, I mean, holy mackerel! People keep talking about when's it going to happen, but it is happening. What I want to start off with, you don't even know this because I didn't give it to you in advance, but from KDEI, no, Elko. KD Elko, maybe that's how, or K Delco, I'm not sure which. Anyway, on X, he says, replying to Rohan Patel and Drive Tesla, the narrative must shift to banning level 0. Rather than banning or not allowing FSD or other kinds of assisted driving, they should ban level 0. Vehicles solely driven by humans without autonomous driver support cause more death. Rohan responds, he says, well said. Regulators around the world should be setting the bar higher for vehicles with no advanced safety systems, because a lot of cars have some good safety systems, advanced safety systems. There's instead a tendency to create artificial blockers to progress, either because of the media inflated anecdotes or protectionism of the incumbent industry. And then Rich Kuhn 755 says, it depends on how good the technology is. Do you think Tesla will have the data to prove that FSD is overwhelmingly safer than human drivers? I think they will get there. And Rohan says back, he says, yes, and we won't be shy. so, so what do you think? That sounds like a smarter move to me. Ban the use of vehicles that don't have safety systems.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta wonder, like, we don't allow cars without seatbelts. We don't allow cars without airbags, emergency braking now, right? I mean, it goes on and on. This is the natural evolution.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I
yeah,
could see it. And I love Rohan's response.
it's great.
Yeah, perfect.
You won't be shy. And then with all these executives talking on X, it's really a lot of fun these days. Martin Viecha says super high retention rate of Tesla buyers is an underappreciated point, especially given that 90% of Tesla vehicles sold in 2023 were sold to people who had never owned a Tesla before. He says the replacement cycle hasn't even begun. So we're hearing all this nonsense about EVs being Tesla, the reputation and Elon, but they have a super high retention rate. Sawyer Merritt says that the Tesla maintains an 87% brand retention rate, outperforming two non-electric automakers automakers at 67% for Lexus and 54% for Toyota. 81% of prospective Tesla buyers are new customers switching from competing EV brands compared to 42% of Nissan's prospective buyers. So it sounds to me like the reputation must not be hurting us that much.
Yeah, no, and to think, that's before the majority of the world gets to experience the level of autopilot FSD that we're experiencing here in North America.
Right.
It's there's one thing to have the I don't need a key, it just works on my phone, the minimalist experience, the greenhouse effect, like all the things that make a Tesla sucks you into the ecosystem. It's like an iPhone. I mean, I don't know if you have an iPhone, Randy, but like you're not
All
getting me off
Apple,
Apple. Yeah,
all Apple, everything's Apple.
exactly. So like you're not getting me off Apple. With Tesla and the vehicle, you're already not getting me off of that. Once you experience FSD and you have that, it's like the ultimate lock-in, right? It creates that stickiness effect. And so my point is the majority of the world hasn't experienced this yet, and they already see those numbers. What happens when they get taste of the good life?
Yeah, so my wife says she feels sorry for people that don't have Tesla vehicles, and that was without even taking into consideration even autopilot. I mean, we have the full suite, but even when she wasn't using it very much, she was like, why would anybody, if you drive this car, why would you ever go back to any other kind of vehicle again? And I've driven, Jaguars and Cadillacs, and I came from a family that was all Plymouths and Dodges, and you get these kind of affinities where you're like, yeah, I'm a Dodge man, or whatever. But I was never a Dodge man like we are a Tesla family now. It's like it's not even an option to think about an alternate car.
Yeah, it's not even close. I mean, I know everybody always makes the you know, Nokia brick phone comparison to an iPhone, but
Right.
that's literally what it's like. My friend has a Austin Martin, and he was like excited to show it and everything. I get in it, I'm like, I feel like I'm going back in time. Like, what are all these buttons everywhere? And like, it's just so clunky, and the design is like, there wasn't even a touchscreen or anything in there. He couldn't figure out how to connect his phone to the Bluetooth, and when he finally did, it was awful. I mean, I was just like, geez, this is like, don't get me wrong, aesthetically from the outside, yeah, it's a good looking car.
Yeah.
Um, but once you get inside and the experience, it just feels like, what are you paying for?
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, I would agree
Oh,
with you.
yeah. Okay.
So
Our team is on another level. Although
yeah,
I am having a very hard time with the ARC team not putting anything out on Optimus yet. That just drives me nuts.
and they keep delaying this new price target they have.
Yeah.
Kathy keeps alluding to it.
Maybe she didn't want to do it until she bought up a bunch of shares at a low price.
I bet you're right because she bought more today.
Did
You're
she buy more?
probably spot on. Yeah, I was just watching. Someone just posted it, but you're probably you are right. Like you saying that, I'm like, oh yeah, yeah. She bought. I don't know. I can't see it here, but yeah, she bought more.
It's her number one position again, I think, on most of the funds. Okay,
Yeah.
let's dig in, let's tear this baby up. He says August 8th will offer some important clues. That's a fact. Well, we believe Tesla has many attributes that can make it a formidable player, if not an outright winner in the race to autonomy. We believe the more material commercial scaling of the business would be well beyond 2030. So right away, I've got a problem. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I mean, it's semantics, right? What like define scaling? Are you saying that by 2030 that 30 to 40 is going to grow a lot more? Then I would say, yeah, I agree with you. Like, I don't think we're going to be in every country on every continent by 2030. I don't. I think we'll be potentially in parts of Europe. I think we will be across North America. I think we'll be in Australia. Um, Maybe there's something happening in China a little bit, maybe not. I don't know. But so if that's what you mean, I could see that. It's just, what do you mean by that? There's so much that could go into it.
So I'm only thinking that we'll have, I don't know, 1 million on the road next year or the following year. He's thinking the million's going to take a very long time, but we'll get into that in a minute. Okay, he says, our thoughts on what we may see and not see on August 8th. Number one, a recognition that making and selling EVs in a traditional consumer model may not create lasting economic value. In terms of generating a firm's cost of capital, the auto industry is one of the worst, one of the most difficult industries in the world. Within this industry, EV is the least profitable and increasingly most competitive segment. Low-priced entry-level EVs are likely to be the fiercest sub-segment. So what do you think about all that?
I think that's not a true statement at all. It's clearly not the least profitable. I think is what you said there. Tesla has the highest margins. It's clear. I mean, it just, again, it depends. Are you talking about everyone else? You're talking about Tesla. Like, that's what it
Yes.
depends on.
And
So
BYD. And BYD.
and BYD. Well,
BYD came out with they're making more money per car than Ford right now.
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, it's I just don't agree with it. I think, is there a does it take time for them to figure it out and how to make it profitable, how to scale, how to verticalize, and how to figure out the things that they don't know yet? Yeah, it does. It doesn't happen overnight, but we can see that the cost of EVs coming down hasn't we haven't met that yet. It's going to continue. Even if there is no next gen vehicle, it'll continue to come down because we're going to have cheaper batteries. We're going to find more efficient ways to do things. You could incorporate the 48 volt architecture, right? You could do a lot of things that doesn't even include the next gen vehicle and still drop the price down, increase margins. So, and again, this is before really we have mass adoption and we're seeing these margins.
So the part I agree with him on is, and I've made this point a couple of times this week, is that I do believe that the low-priced area, if we get into a Gen 3 vehicle, which I still believe we're going to do, at least in the Western countries, the Europe and America, Australia, etc., I think that this will be a harder place to make money. It will be lower margin, I believe. That's my belief. I could be wrong. Maybe it won't be, but that's what I think will happen. Recruiting exercise, he says, number two. I think we might find maybe this will be something we can agree with him on. As many competing autonomous vehicle robotaxi efforts get scaled back or canceled, we would expect to see hundreds or even thousands of world-class robotics AI engineering talent looking for their next project. Among an increasingly intense battle for talent, we believe Tesla may represent a potentially attractive destination. So with this, are we looking for being able to grab up a few of these folks that have been working at Cruise, et cetera?
I mean, what gave it away? The recent announcement of the Cruise engineer saying he's coming to Tesla. I don't think there's anything new here. This is not. You know what that's for? That statement is for people who aren't on X, people who are just S&P 500 investors and aren't following along. That's what that was for. Because everybody else is saying, "Yeah, what's new? You haven't said anything new here."
Okay, number three.
Sorry, I'm being harsh today.
Yeah, okay, be harsh. That's okay. Path to commercialization of true robotaxis with no steering wheels at scale will be both long dated and volatile, in our opinion. While we are prepared for Tesla to unveil an actual physical robotaxi prototype this summer, we would urge caution on potential commercialization timelines for a fully autonomous taxi service. While we're bullish on the long-term growth of the level 4, level 5 autonomous cars, we believe the adoption curve will be extremely logarithmic, with an inflection in adoption being much further to the right than many industry observers expect due to a host of legal, regulatory, moral, and ethical factors that are unmodelable. Interesting term, unmodelable.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people have modeled this. So, for something that's so unmodelable, it's weird. I mean, you could literally just take an Uber or Lyft model and take out the cost of the human, and there's your model, right?
Go.
Like it's not unmodelable. Here's something that I disagree with. I think a lot of people, and this is going to sound like I just am overly optimistic, but I don't think I am. One, I don't think this is going to be a prototype necessarily. I'm not saying it'll be like final design. I think they'll they'll more or less have things figured out. But I think the prototype will more so be on the production line. I think they have the vehicle figured out what they want. I think because you wouldn't be working on production line otherwise, in my opinion. There might be a few tweaks here, but.
And is this just a Robotaxi version, or is this also a consumer version?
So what they're going to show is just a Robotaxi.
Okay.
I also think that this will actually scale very easily with regulations, with municipalities, with everything, because I almost feel like you're going to see potentially like a Gavin Newsom appearance or a Ron DeSantis appearance, like on a screen for a second about a partnership that they're doing, or a mayor of a city. But you can listen, who was at the Tesla AI headquarters announcement ribbon cutting? Gavin Newsom. Despite all the friction, everything going on, why was he there? Because he wanted to make sure that he kept talent and high paying jobs in California. Right. So I think you're going to see a battle of the biggest states, Texas, California, Florida, fighting to be the state that says, yes, come. We open our arms to new technology, Elon Musk, right? And you see SpaceX is in Florida, SpaceX is in Texas, SpaceX is in California, right? Like it seems to make a lot of sense. And if one state says no, there's going to be another state saying, yep, bring it here. We'll take it. We'll take it. Absolutely. We'll take the tax revenue on that. No problem. So I think you're going to see states adopt this quicker. Regulation, this is a no-brainer, okay? Like in Florida alone, I'll speak for Florida because I know numbers here. 26% of people are uninsured in Florida. Like, that's insane, right? So it just stands to reason that you would want to push for this type of thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think it's going to be adopted a lot faster than people think. Again, look at Uber and look at Lyft. Look at Airbnb. These were things that people thought were like impossible.
Right.
You want me to get in some random stranger's car and they're going to take me somewhere? You want me to sleep in some stranger's house? I don't even know who they are. What we're talking about with the Robotaxi is way less crazy than that. We're saying get into your own private vehicle that's going to take you from point A to point B.
Yeah, and with nobody to harass you from the front seat with stories of their how much they're making being an Uber driver,
or to ask you to tip,
or ask you to tip. Yeah, and as far as the ability of the vehicle to operate as a robotaxi and to not make a bunch of errors and stuff, I don't think there's a chance in the world that Elon puts this on the streets until it's ready to go. It's going to be because he knows he's not stupid by a long shot. He's not stupid, and he's not going to put them out there and have them getting into all kinds of trouble from day one. You probably saw that they're hiring across the country individuals to begin testing these. So I think they will be well tested by August 8th, and we should be ready to go by then. All right, he says number 4, emblematic of a bigger shift, Tesla's business model to real-world hard tech, AI, and robotics. So he's talking about the idea that the street will start to get it. While Tesla is still currently largely covered by the auto industrial analysts on both the buy and sell side, we expect over time investors will witness a shift in the company's business model at the margin to a more asset-light, software-based, recurring revenue model. Your thoughts?
So I actually agree a lot on this one with Dan Ives, but this is the beginning. This isn't even the beginning. This is like day 0. It's not even day 1. It's day 0 with all of this. So it's not going to happen overnight. But I think what I think we're going to see on 8/8 is, do you remember Autonomy Day? By chance,
Sure.
you have that fresh in your head?
How can you forget it?
Yeah. So at Autonomy Day, they provided some really in-depth thought and analysis on costs, on pricing, on what it would look like, how to scale, how you would use the app, how you would call for it, how to get plug in, plug that. Like, they went pretty in-depth on it. The way I see August 8th is that with more detail and them essentially saying, see, we told you we would do this. Were we late? Yes, but we always deliver.
That's right. Do you think they will roll out the network the very next day, more or less? In other words, will you be able to put your car out as a Robotaxi on August 9th?
No, I don't think so.
11th?
I think they will have a estimated date,
Okay.
like something like, February 12th or March 15th or something. I don't know, something. Just because it's hard to tell because we haven't seen another version of V12.
No.
Like we've seen V1 and we saw V3. I think we need to see one more version, like a V12, to really understand like how quickly things are improving, to feel confident in that. But maybe, like they know, they know 6 months ahead, right? So we don't know. We don't see what they see right now. So maybe.
Now, I said the very first day, I have a suspicion that Elon Musk right now is driving a car that he feels is virtually ready to go.
Yeah. Well,
it may be making teeny tiny mistakes from time to time, but that it's virtually ready to go.
yeah, I think you've been saying this for quite some time. So let's circle back real quick. You asked me about if they're going to do a lower cost vehicle that's not just a robotaxi. Yes, I think they will, but I think they will take a more Apple-like approach where they'll say, here's this vehicle, you can order it starting now. I think it'll be like that. So I'm hoping with when they announce the fleet and all that, I'm hoping it's the same thing. It's like it's no more than a quarter away.
Okay, number 5. While Tesla's 5 million cars represent the population of probes collecting visual data from the edge for neural net training, we see a range of adjacent applications for capturing pattern of life data from the real world with relevance to enter markets from aviation to robotics. Some markets, such as humanoid robots, address the 30 trillion global labor market. So I think he's got this one right, and this is why I like him, is because he does have the ability to jump over to the other side.
Yeah, but how can you talk about that, but you can't model Robotaxi? Like that's harder to model, because we don't know how long that can take either. Um, humanoids it's difficult because if we're comparing it to robotaxis, okay, well then do you need that much data? Okay, well it doesn't have to be as safe as that. Okay, but if you're talking about slowing down production line potentially, okay, or maybe we don't need that much data of a small situation. It just gets hard. Like on a production line, maybe there aren't a bunch of edge cases, so like it's so much easier to do. Like it's literally just a handful of possibilities, and so the aperture for things is less. So I don't know. But I do agree. Like, we've heard them talk about other animals, right? Other form factors. So the humanoid is going to happen. It's not even a question at this point.
That's right. So he says, number 6, August 8th may serve to reignite the conversation around whether Tesla is worthy of inclusion in an AI conversation or portfolio or not. Our overweight rating is underpinned on the assumption that Tesla can ultimately capture value in the area of custom silicon at exaflop scale, solving some of the world's most challenging problems, such as autonomy, offering a gateway into vast untapped commercial potential. Tesla's in-house computing efforts aside, Dojo, Tesla may be one of NVIDIA's very largest customers. Have investors stopped to think about why that might be?
Yeah, I agree with everything except for that very first part. I don't think August 8th is when we potentially reevaluate. This is what I don't like about analysts is that while Dan Ives is, to your point, the best of these analysts because he sees it for what it is, and he will talk about the green wave. He'll talk about that it's a technology company, right? He says these things, but supposedly all these other analysts are like, well, they are going to miss deliveries next month or whatever. And, they keep having EPS shortfall and all that. And it's like, guys, who cares? Why does that matter? If they have robo taxis going around next year, does it matter if they miss deliveries? Like, you are missing the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
Like, as cliche as that is, like, it's irrelevant. My wife this morning on CNBC, they're sitting there talking about how Elon has been late on things, whatever. And, do you really want to own the stock? And even my wife was like, who cares if it's 24 months late? If they do it, like, it's game over. Like, it's irrelevant. The TAM is so big and there's no one else doing it.
Yeah. So then he switches gears a little bit and he says, listen, key assumptions behind our Tesla mobility model. So he's now got something he calls the mobility model. Number one. He doesn't call it number one, so I don't want to mischaracterize it. He calls it DOT. Okay. Tesla Mobility is our mobility as a service unit of Tesla that is a pay-as-you-go subscription-based ride-share network. Uber-like model at first. And here's his theory. And by the way, I kind of agree with him. I think they'll start out, and he says, model at first using human operators of highly automated Tesla vehicles, migrating to fully autonomous robotaxis over successive generations, including through partnerships with other rideshare firms or through OEMs, technology, network licensing arrangements. So I happen to agree with like almost everything he said in that one, including that I think eventually it'll be prescriptions, subscriptions, prescription. There'll be subscriptions, like maybe mine will be $100 a month because I hardly go anywhere. Somebody else will be $200 a month because they go 2,000 miles a month or whatever. Anyway, but and all the thing about partnerships with Uber or other people, I think all of that's going to happen. What do you think?
So what do I think versus what I think Elon thinks are two different things. I think that the logical approach would be to do what you're saying as far as create the robo fleet, create the app, create the network, then have it where I can put my vehicle into it, but I still have to be in the car, but it can do everything. After we reach X amount of miles of people doing this, and we've been able to show the regulators that, hey, this is on the up and up, no disengagements, everything, then we can move on to not having to have the human in. That's what I think would be a normal linear progression. I think Elon would disagree. I think Elon is going to say either we have a human having to drive or it's not a robotaxi. I don't think he wants to waste time with that intermediate. And I think his point will be we still have FSD supervised until we don't need supervised. It's one or the other. We're not going to tiptoe and play this game. We're not going to be Cruise. We're not going to be Waymo. I think that's how Elon thinks. I also think pricing, I'm very opinionated on this. Pricing, I think, needs to work a very, very certain way. I think you need to have the ability to just click it on and you get charged by the mile. And maybe that by the mile is 50 cents if that's how you're doing it. Mm-hmm. There's a subscription fee. So if you want to do a per month, then maybe that's, I don't know, $200 a month, right? So more expensive than that 50 cents per mile. Or excuse me, cheaper than that 50 cents per mile. You get incentivized to do a subscription monthly. If you do a full year, maybe that's only $150 a month if you do a 1 year upfront. If you want to be in the FSD network and be able to put your car as a robotaxi, that's a different price.
Right.
That should be 50 grand.
Right.
So you have to pay upfront or you can amortize it, but that's enterprise licensing.
Right.
So I think that's how it should work.
Agree 1,000%. Now, what about the other side? How much do you think it's going to cost when they start rolling them out? How much is the consumer going to pay when they get in? Are they going to pay more because they don't have a driver? And because it's novel and fun? Are they going to pay about the same because they can? Or will they start off being less expensive in order to steal business away?
I think they'll be slightly less expensive. And that's all they need to do, because I think even if they were at the same prices like a Uber or Lyft, I think they would still steal business because, one, it's safer. Two, I don't have to tip. 3, I don't have to deal with anyone else. 4, I'm definitely in a nicer vehicle than whatever that is.
So what you just said actually is, yeah, they can charge more.
They could, but I think they won't. I think Tesla likes to be seen as always giving back, right? They want to pass along discounts to consumers. And so that's been their, their operating model, and they want to be perceived as doing more good. And so again, it doesn't have to be much cheaper to just be like, it's just even more of a no-brainer now to go with a Tesla Robotaxi.
Now we're going to see Dan Ives at his worst, being a totally conservative, like numbers so low that you're just like, what are you even talking about? So he forecasts the inauguration of the service by 2026, not even 2025. So we're going to announce it in 8/8, and then we're going to wait a year and a half before they start putting any units out. I don't think so. But anyway, I'll let you comment in a second. With 1,000 units in operation in 2026. And then by 2030, we forecast 157,500 units. That happens to be 0.6% of Tesla's global fleet at that time, I guess, rising to 1.7 million units by 2035. Once again, at this time, we expect the vast majority of the Tesla mobility fleet to be human operated. Human operated. What does he mean? The vast majority will still, I guess, will still be human operated. Okay. So I just disagree with everything he just said there, but you go ahead.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. Keep in mind, we're in 2024, right?
Yes.
So from the beginning of beta, when beta was first released to now,
yeah,
that's less time than now to 2030.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. My only input to the car ever is, again, in a parking lot to park, like we talked about before in the green room. And every once in a while, I'll tap the accelerator just because it's a little conservative on a creep. That's it. You're telling me that over the next 5.5 years, they're not going to be able to solve the rest of this? Like, there's no way. There's no way. So I don't believe that. As far as his number, he said like what, 1.6, 1.7 million by 2030.
Well, let's start with 2026 with 1,000 units.
Yeah, no, I don't think he understands what the unbox method is supposed to be. It's supposed to be smaller footprint, half the cost, faster to produce, not serial operations, parallel operations. We want to get volume out there, right? So I think that's insane. By 2030, you'll probably be doing over 1 million robotaxis a year.
Or more.
Yeah, or more, right? Like it's so I don't see it. And still using humans by then. If we're still using humans by then, something went wrong.
Yeah, I don't think he's meaning by that it's a supervised drive of the robotaxi. I think what he means is that there will still be supervised humans in owned cars. But I think that is also I think there will still be owned cars, and there will be owned cars that don't have FSD in 2030, but not very many. Not very many, as long as the price is right.
I think Tesla should almost get to there should be a point where there's just not even every Tesla will have FSD. Like, especially with like what I was talking about before, the subscription model, right? It's like, I don't need to ask if you want FSD. If you press down on it, we start that meter.
Yeah.
You're going to have it.
So, yeah. So, I mean, in order for I think the very first one gives it away. In order for him to be right, that it doesn't happen until 2026, and then there's only 1,000 units, that would basically mean that all of the guys and gals who are currently driving Teslas with Uber will not be part of this experiment or part of this deal, even in 2026. That would mean that the 5 million or 6 million or 8 million or 10 million cars that are on the road by that time, of which maybe 1 million or 2 million will have FSD, that none of those people can turn it on and start using it to generate money, which has been Elon's promise and his expectation and his excitement for the longest time. So no, I think that if they turn on the system, if they turn the switch, in my opinion, the very next day, or, when they say that if it's available in Florida, everybody in Florida that's got FSD can start doing robotaxing. If they have to wait 3 weeks before it's available in California, then they'll announce it for California. But other than that, I don't see why in the world, where he would even come up with such a number as 1,000 units. Makes no sense. All right.
That's crazy conservative.
All right. We forecast mobility to be less than 1 billion in revenues by 2027. Same thing. Reaching 17 billion by 2030. I think Kathy Wood has it at, I don't know, 1 trillion by 2030 or something like that. so I just don't know. Revenue is driven by our forecast of Tesla mobility achieving 9.5 billion miles per month by 2030, 0.07% of total miles traveled, rising to 109 billion per month by 2035. At that point, 0.7% of all miles traveled. Wow. So, I don't think, no comment necessary. We value Tesla mobility at $61 a share. This is roughly on parity with our valuation of the core Tesla auto business at around 20% of our 310 price target. So I guess he and Kathy both believe in FSD and in Robotaxi. They just have an awful big difference with regard to how fast they think it's going to roll out once it actually works.
Yeah, and to be fair, no one knows.
That's right.
He may be too bearish. Kath may be too optimistic. We really don't know yet. And we also don't know. I mean, for all we know, Tesla's going to screw up the rollout of this. That's possible too.
It happened.
I doubt it, but I just, going back to it being released, and like ready to use. I think if we look at the Model 3 refresh, Highland Plus, whatever you want to call it, they held off on announcing that until they're ready to ship them. Right? I think that shows their mindset. And I think Tesla did not want to announce 8.8 until maybe a month out. And this whole Reuters thing, kind of made Elon, say, screw it. Let's just put it to him.
Yeah.
And I think there's a reason for this. I think they're changing the way they operate. Because honestly, I think Elon's sick of it. He's like, all right, I'm done telling you guys timelines. Like, he's not even talking about a Robotaxi timeline or when he thinks he'll solve it. Like, he has not said anything this year. He's not entertaining anymore. I think he's just sick of it. He's sick of the memes. He's sick of people calling him out. And he's like, he's giving his best guess on something that's never been done before.
Right, exactly. and that is the entrepreneur's dilemma. I can tell you that from great experience. Yeah. So, all right, let's take a look at where the market is now. We have got Tesla, who was up nicely, $3.90 during the regular hours today, which was way ahead of the market, way ahead of the Magnificent Seven, way ahead of Kathy Wood's. A very good day for Tesla. And in the after hours, up another 48 cents. So that bodes well for tomorrow. But of course, tomorrow is CPI day. So you can't make a guess at all as to what's going to happen in the markets tomorrow until we see what the CPI comes in at. So it should be and then it gets more interesting as the day progresses, because even if the CPI comes in good, even if the markets don't go crazy, guess what happens in the afternoon? Fed minutes.
Oh yeah, Fed minutes.
Yeah, so we have two things tomorrow, either one of which could blow up the market. So
I completely forgot the Fed minutes. All I've been thinking about CPI.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's see here. What about the rest of the market? We have got the bonds as where we always start, because I still consider the bonds to be the key. The 10-year down another 0.2 of a basis point in the after hours. 2-year about the same, down 0.4%, but the 2-month up 1.5. So the 2-month and the 10-year had come down to only 100 basis points separating them, and now it's re-widening. So I don't know. I'm beginning to think that I have no idea what's going to happen with this inversion because we're not getting a recession. Oh, I know. If it also was one of the people who thought we were going to have a recession and it was just wrong.
Yeah.
That must be it.
Although, sorry to throw you off. Oh my goodness, I can't remember what they're called right now, but they're one of the biggest fund managers, like $3 trillion. God, I can't think of it right now. But
BlackRock.
no.
Yeah.
Anyways, they are forecasting 150 to 200 basis points cut by the Fed by like October timeframe, seeing a slowdown. I mean, literally everything you've been saying.
Okay. Okay. You do know I changed my mind though. I've called off
Oh,
the recession. I called off the recession.
well, I was gonna say, hey, look, Randy, we're both right because I've been saying that when they cut, they're gonna cut aggressive,
Yes, you have.
not
So
not
now though,
25.
when the employment numbers came out last Friday, I was already down to 40 recession. And when the employment numbers came out Friday, I was like, I cannot see. Now, these employment numbers aren't phenomenal. A lot of part-time work, a lot of government work, a lot of medical industry work, which is almost like government. Having said that, the number of total people employed, the work week expanding, a little bit of an increase, pretty good increase in wages. It's very hard for me to see how we go into recession given all of those. There's a bunch of stuff that's still shaky out there. Maybe most of all would be the today's numbers. I don't know if you saw the small business people coming in and saying that they were not very optimistic. So that shook up my new analysis a little bit, but because I wasn't expecting.
But jobs numbers have nothing to do with being in a recession, right? So it's there's a causation there, sure. There's a penalty, but the job numbers shouldn't be what defines what a recession is.
Well, no, what
And
I'm saying,
so
no, I'm saying it from this standpoint. If people are working and putting money in their pocket and they're working a few more hours and they're putting more money in their pocket, then they're going to have more money to spend. And the number one thing that I was worried about was the consumer running out of money. And so if the consumer is able to stay, if the consumer gets nervous, if we start seeing the consumer optimism come down, that might change my mind again.
that's fair. Yeah, just keep in mind all the big layoffs that happened last year, you know, I'm not saying it's going to happen at the beginning or at the second half of the year, but they all happen at the beginning of the new year. We've already seen a lot of layoffs beginning of this year, and so you never know what could happen going into next year. So
yeah. No, I don't. I'm not saying there won't be a recession next year. I'm saying the 8 months that we have left here, I can't see how it's going to happen in this time frame. So that's just me. I could end up.
Hey, that sounds good to me.
I
I
could end up
prefer
being
not to have
completely
one.
wrong. Okay, let's see. Let's go back on to oil. Oil is being bashed around a lot. Brent is now back under 90. Texas Intermediate 85.26, just up a few pennies in the pre-market, but it's been going up and down based on, is there going to be enough supply? Is there demand problems with Russia? I mean, with China or not? Maybe China's going to have demand going positive because of the stimulus that's going on over there anyway. But right now, oil seems to be getting stuck in a little bit of a trading range. We'll see if that continues. Natural gas has been going up all week. Almost $1.90 now, been going up rapidly. No, I haven't been able to find a reason for that yet. Gold up $8.90. There's no top. There's no top on gold. You just
Yeah.
and people are saying that they don't know where it's going to top out. They don't have I haven't found anybody yet to say, yeah, well, probably at 2,500. It's maxed out. Nobody seems to have a clue.
I saw something like Costco selling like $200 million a month of gold bars.
I know. Is that wild?
That is wild.
And Chinese consumers are buying gold also.
Oh yeah, they're Yeah,
Yeah. Anyway,
China's a problem.
copper continue up a third of a penny in the after hours. I'm sorry, third of a percent, 1.6 cents. That's been going up steadily also, now over $4.30. So that has been a steady rise for, I think, about 11 days, 12 days in a row now. You've got the dollar flat in the pre-market, and you've got the Bitcoin down $2,600, back under 70,000 again at 69,162. Any thoughts on Bitcoin in this particular environment?
Not really. Just that it's interesting that it's struggling to stay above 70,000. But the whole market's kind of flatlined a little bit here. So
Yeah,
I think it's par for the course.
that flatlining should come off tomorrow when the CPI is out of the way and the Fed report, and then we'll see
One way or another.
the other. All right, we have got here we go with the shoot. I lost it. Here we go. The pre-market on equities. The Dow is up 39 or 0.1%. The S&P futures are up 4.5 at 0.09%, and the NASDAQ up 18 at 0.10. So they're all three almost identically up about 0.1%. So that also should bode well for the opening tomorrow morning until we find out what happens in the CPI. So, of course, if you haven't hit notify yet, you know you want to be here. You know you want to be finding me. You want to get that email at 7:10 tomorrow morning that tells you that I have come out with my analysis of the CPI report. So that is something you definitely want to do. Okay, so what else? Any closing remarks today? Anything that's hot on your list of important stuff right now?
That's a good question. No, just there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Um, and I think we are in a moment where I don't think Tesla stock is going to be this low for all that much longer. Meaning, I don't know. When I say much longer, I'm saying like 12, 18 months. Like I think we are getting ready for another run. Personally, I think we are on that precipice. Um, so just enjoy it. Don't take it for granted. Just like with all these FSD updates, don't take it for granted. Enjoy it. Enjoy the progress and enjoy the process, right? Because bad days like 2022, like that year, they'll happen again. So I think right now where this is the fun part.
Yeah.
I know some people are underwater, some people are upset, some people are selling, but this is the fun part. This is the journey so that when we do have a run again and it feels so euphoric, like it's because we've been waiting, we've been patient, we've been, investing, dollar cost averaging, understanding the business. So I don't know. I guess my final thoughts just don't take it for granted. Enjoy it. Don't rush it away. Be optimistic. Don't invest for the stock. Invest for the company. And yeah, everything should be good.
I'm glad that you encouraged me to be optimistic. I'll have to work on that.
You're too pessimistic, Randy's what the community knows you as.
That's right. Oh my God. Okay, so Nicholas, it is always wonderful to have you on Tuesday night to take a look at this entire situation. I think we covered it beautifully tonight. And to all of you out there, thank you for staying with us. If you've stayed with us the entire hour. And until next time, it's been great talking to you.